Now we're going to go into this next panel. The official title is Revenue Management, but she's going to talk all about pricing dynamics and all of the things that go into that. So our moderator first up is going to be Molly from Roar Media. Hi, Molly. Let me get out of the way. Welcome. Next up, we have Simnath from LogIQ or Logique. You have to remind me how he says it. I got corrected the other day. How are you saying it? LogIQ or Logique? Logique. See, I think Logique sounds more like some sort of like skit on SNL, probably, right? It's a really interesting product, though. Now we have Seth from Evermundo. From Homeaway, we have Mike. And finally, Uplift. Rob, come on out. Also, thank you for sponsoring. We appreciate it.
Certainly.
All right, take it away.
Awesome. Hey, guys. So we know that we are the only thing standing in between you finding out, one, who's the winner of the startup pitch competition, and two, happy hours. So we're going to try to be concise and timely here, as much as all of us really like to geek out about this topic. So I've gotten to know these guys a little bit over the past couple days and weeks, and they're all awesome. And we have, I would agree, the coolest topic on the boards today. So in today's day and age, we have no shortage of data available to us as marketers and, as people working in the travel industry. And pair that with the genesis of AI and machine learning, and we're very quickly approaching a reality where pricing personalization in real time is becoming kind of the next thing and the next trend. So we're going to talk a little bit today about how these guys are connecting the dots in their various fields. So I'm going to give them a second to introduce themselves. So guys, tell us who you are, where you're from, and what your company does.
Sure. My name is Somnath Banerjee, and first of all, can you all hear me fine? Thanks. My name is Somnath Banerjee. I'm the CTO of Logic. We develop revenue management systems, and I live and work out of Silicon Valley. That's where I've been for the last 23 years.
Hi, guys. I'm Seth Cassell, the president of Evermundo. We're based here in Miami, and we provide airlines with fare marketing technology tools to improve their direct customer acquisition and grow their direct channel revenue.
Hey, guys. I'm Mike Gallion. I'm with Homeaway. We're an online marketplace for vacation rentals. We did just over $11 billion in gross bookings last year across millions of vacation rentals around the world. I lead our marketplace design team, and what we look at is, we are a two-sided marketplace, so we balance both sides, supply and demand, and it includes reputation signals, reviews, revenue management, and pricing.
And my name's Rob Borden. I'm with a company called Uplift. We are a monthly installment payments provider that is exclusively focused on the travel industry, and our company's actually in Silicon Valley, but I live right here in Miami.
And I'm Molly. I'm the director of client strategy at Roar Media. We're a Miami-based marketing firm that is heavily invested in the travel industry here, doing performance-based marketing for a variety of clients in the sector. Okay, so starting off, talk to us a little bit about how you guys are leveraging data, whether that's big data from third-party sources or proprietary data either from your clients or your own companies to drive profitability and take kind of profits from good to great with the power of data.
Sure. So essentially what Logic does is revenue management. I'd like to think that there are basically two big pillars. One is demand forecasting. The other is pricing optimization. Demand forecasting, to state it in simple language, we can tell you the number of guests who are going to arrive in your hotel 30 days out, 60 days out, 365 days out, by segment. So if you think how we do forecasting, it's rather obvious. So I'd like to think in terms of three concentric circles. At the very core is your own property or your hotel. We get past reservation data and future on-the-books data. And then the next ring is all the competitors whom you have identified. Now you can manually identify, or you can use the machine to pick out who are the best competitors, depending on certain profile. And the third ring is the overall market. At Logic, market is constituted by a set of hotels and a certain character of hotels. So these are the three rings for which we try to get the demand. And we take an outside-in approach because we believe the way the market is moving, that's where eventually the hotel will move. So we do forecasting of demand by essentially these three concentric circles. And then you can imagine like external arrows coming in. What are those arrows? Events, things like whether Beyonce is coming to town. Or is there any significant shift in airlines because of something which our government has done? So, or something else. So these are the external confounding factors which can influence that demand forecasting. Now, along with demand, so first stage we get the demand, and then we try to do a pricing optimization. And data is at the core of everything. Now, AI and ML sounds like very fancy terms, but at the end, most of these models, many of these models were existent for quite some time. In my mind, there are two things which has changed. One is large availability of data. All the blog posts that we make, all the likes, all the pictures that we upload has created this great body of data which we can mine and then find out. The second thing which actually amazes me, going through this journey of computation for almost 30 years, is the access to amazing compute power. What used to be NASA-grade hardware or military-grade hardware, now a graduate student can get access to that hardware for the price of a Starbucks coffee. She can get access to that on demand. She can only buy that small piece and shift through this data and create these forecasting models. Now, many of these models, sophisticated models like long and short-term memory or gradient regression boosted trees, has been defined by very smart people and has been there. But what we lacked was applicability to some of these modern data masses in a very affordable computation form. And that's what we are trying to do at Logic, taking demand forecasting and pricing optimization with state-of-the-art AI ML models.
Awesome, thanks. What about you guys?
So at Everymundo, the primary data sets that we're working with are flight search activity in an airline's booking engine and the fares being presented and the flight information being presented to those visitors. And then we're taking that and combining it with web analytics data to make decisions about how to present fares in different web pages, different applications for fare display, for flight search, and also even off-page, bringing those fares for different flights into the different digital marketing channels. So it's, in some ways, it starts as data, and then that data is automating decisions in terms of content and what we think is the best message to put forward. So for example, if we know that you are in Miami and we are sending an email, let's say, through this, we can decide what routes to present to you, what the best fares available over different time periods are. You click on that email, you land on a page which then reflects that same message, followed by offering different tools to explore different dates, different routes, etc. And so the idea is that the customer is exposed to the usage of this data, and by the time they're entering the booking funnel to actually purchase, they're very well informed, and they have a sense of willingness to pay, and they're higher intention.
Yeah, for us at Homeaway, I mean, these guys have said it, data is at the foundation of any good revenue management system. So it really comes down to the quality and the richness of that data. So we're a platform, and when you think about the data you're going to analyze and assess and train your machines, that's machine learning, and make predictions on, for us, we thought it was really important to take a different approach. So as a platform, we have signals certainly on the supply side, all the inventory, the properties, the owners and the managers in our marketplace, but we also have demand signals. So not only kind of looking forward or looking the past for bookings, but also looking forward to bookings that have been made, we also can see what travelers are searching for who haven't even booked yet. Not only across Homeaway, and Homeaway we've got dozens of sites, but also across Expedia. So when we take all of these signals, the thing we're kind of doing differently, it comes down to the quality and the richness of that data. And as it relates to revenue management, it's tough. That data is super valuable, and a lot of times it's in a black box, piecing all of these data components together. So we've taken a different approach. We're a platform. We have access to kind of all those data signals. And we're democratizing that for our owners and partners who are part of our marketplace. We're making that data accessible to them so they can make the right decisions for their revenue management decisions.
Great. And I think most of us have seen in our daily lives that installment payments are nothing new, you know, if you think about a mortgage, a car payment, things like that, but they've never really taken off in the travel business. And I know my years in the airline industry and most recently in the cruise business, we were constantly looking at how can we get more people to book sooner or to upsell, just as everyone is in this room. And one of the things that has enabled us to be so successful in introducing installment payments to the travel industry is just the use of data and the machine learning. And somebody on the investment panel this morning made the point that travel is its own unique animal. And while an installment payment solution for, you know, a household product, a sofa, a home improvement project has its own unique characteristics, so does the travel industry. And so what we're enabling customers to achieve today through Uplift is sort of their own unique installment payment plan, which then furthers revenue management goals of allowing people to book sooner, perhaps upgrade their experience, and ultimately have more money to spend at the destination by spreading payments out over time.
Great, and Mike, you said something, and Rob as well, that I want to kind of jump off of. So, you know, you were talking, Mike, about how kind of, you know, data is in this black box and you're getting it from all of these different sources. You know, I think that whether you're a marketer or you're on the revenue side or, you know, the web side, that's one of the biggest frustrations, especially for, you know, a company that is selling on different platforms. You have your app, you have your email, you have all your different marketing channels, you have search trends. You know, finding kind of a source of truth and saying, this is the accurate data, this is what we're going to make decisions off of, and creating a blend of that. Mike, it sounds like you guys are kind of developing your own proprietary solution to that in-house. I've found that there's not really a lot of sort of out-of-the-box solutions that, you know, companies have gravitated towards or that exist out there. So I'd just like to get your guys' thoughts on that. Like, how do you synchronize different data sets? Do you think that, you know, it's always going to be something that companies have to kind of do internally, or do you think there's a mass solution, you know, kind of that's coming out that's going to be like the textbook on data?
You want me to go?
Sure.
First of all, welcome to my daily life. This is what we do day in, day out. Like I said, AI and ML all sounds very fancy, but at the end of the day, every day, day in, day out, we are actually cleaning data, preparing data. So it's almost like a cooking show. The actual cooking takes less than a few minutes, but most of the time is acquiring the ingredients, cleaning it, preparing it, processing it, and then you put it in the oven. So taking the analogies apart, what we first have to do, take the data and take care of the missing values. Especially in the hotel travel industry, there's a ton of missing values. Then you need to dedupe the data. Then you need to normalize the data. You refer to a very interesting thing. How do we get these different data sources and harmonize them together, right? So after you do that, then you try to correlate variables. Is pricing, how much is related across segments, all right? So what is the correlation heat map? Because that gives you the predictive power of after certain things, that is, whether I predict by segment, day of the week, month of the year, what have you. So getting those good old-fashioned statistical principles to work on data in a very large way is the first chapter of the book. Because if you don't do that, if you don't put your diligence in there, it's garbage in, garbage out. We all know that, but I'm living that almost every day. So first you prepare that, then you start predicting, then you start preparing your machine learning models. Make sense?
I mean, I think for us, there's lots of platforms out there that, you know, from the very, very sophisticated to very, very simple that allow, you know, depending on what level you're on, to access and manage and synthesize many data sets and combine them as well. And, you know, on some ends, for us internally, we find ourselves wanting to do things in a little more proprietary way, and other times we're just using off-the-shelf tools, and sometimes it's a hybrid of the two. In the industry, though, particularly around airline, online acquisition, and e-commerce, we see a lot of, I think, people getting ahead of themselves, where there's this obsession around personalization and data collection and wanting to know everything about every person and track every item, and even accuracy is already a fairly high bar in any of these efforts. So we try to flip it around in working with the airlines to simplify things a little bit, start with the basics. There's a lot of value that can be teased out of some what is perceived as very simple data sets before we're getting deep into the weeds on more difficult data to capture, on data that starts to go down a road where you're getting into sensitive areas of privacy and things like that. And for us, being able to first leverage that and do that in a very simple way with very simple tools is already a massive step, I think, for a lot of the companies. And it also, that then opens the door for your own creativity to help you earn your way into more complex combinations of data, more complex solutions that require a little more heavy lifting than the typical off-the-shelf products.
I think for us, I totally agree in terms of having your house in order. Like, you have to have clean data, otherwise you have garbage in, garbage out. For traditional revenue management systems that are kind of standalone, if you think about the data sets, they're having to deal with multiple data sets from multiple sources. And so the cleaning of the house is kind of exponentially, it's challenging. You have a tough problem. For us on the platform, like we have all of those signals, and it's not that we don't supplement with other data outside of our marketplace, but it's really getting our house in order on clean data in. And then, I'd say the closest thing we have is across Expedia. Like, we have data sources across Expedia. When you think of the full life cycle of a traveler, vacation, leisure or vacation travel's one component of that. But there's a lot of other signals that we can pick up as a company across Expedia. So it's a matter of how we leverage those signals to build models that enable us to help our partners in terms of their revenue management.
But Mike, you were saying that you just present, you make it available to the suppliers, basically, right? In order for them to make decisions. So you don't have to basically over-churn it and over-synthesize it. They can, some very straightforward presentation of data.
Yes and no. We use
that on the inside, of course.
We use machine learning in a number of areas. I'll give you a couple of examples. One is, you talked about a competitive set, or what we call them comparables, that we basically have models that can look at every, it's heterogeneous. It's not like hotels, like almost every home is different. It's unique, the configuration, where it's located, the amenities, things like that. We built models for us to find similarities between properties, and we have a match score. And that's an example. We put that in front of our partners and say, like, hey, here are the properties when travelers are coming to search. They're not just looking at your property, here are other properties. That's one example. The other models we build are occupancy forecasting. So we can certainly see the bookings that have taken place, but then based on demand signals, we can also start forecasting and predicting the pacing of future bookings. And then another one is model is booking probability. Based on everything that's happening in the marketplace, we put the data in the hands of the partner to say, here's your property, here's how it compares to everything else, here's how you're priced, and here's the probability that you're going to get a booking on these dates, based on whether you raise your price or lower your price. So it's not just putting the data in front of them, where it's actually the next step, which is insights that can help them make decisions.
Awesome, and I want to come back to the AI and ML component of all of this, obviously. But first, jumping back to something that Rob was touching on earlier, as guys who are kind of on the front lines, working, with the data either directly or, working with clients that have direct access to this data, how does travel compare to kind of the rest of the consumer marketplace? Like, in terms of the trends that we're seeing, is there a strong correlation with how the economy is doing as a whole, how consumer spending is doing as a whole, or is it really, its own animal and behaves unlike anything else? And kind of, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think as some of the investment panel pointed out this morning, travel is unique in that there are a lot of legacy systems that still drive a big portion of the industry. And as much as we do appreciate the cautious, pragmatic leadership of an airline, it also slows down adoption of new ideas and new technology. But as the economy is going strong, it works both ways. Sometimes that drives a willingness to try new things because there's comfort in performance. But other times it may be that everything's going fine and we'd rather not rock the boat. Conversely, if the economy is in a little bit of a softer place, it may drive necessity drives invention, so to speak. And so what we've seen in working with our partners is that and something that was a bit surprising to me when I joined the company is that who is attracted to the concept of a monthly installment payment? Is it just those that are in real need of some alternative to credit, or is it those that are wanting to take a trip of a lifetime? And as it turns out, it's across the board. In fact, over 20% of our customers have super prime outstanding credit, and even in a strong economy like today, when you would think, why would they want to take out a monthly installment loan? In fact, they are those that are taking that trip of a lifetime or upgrading to business class instead of premium economy, or let's take grandma and grandpa with us, that kind of experience. So we see some interesting trends, but I can't say that a strong economy drives one behavior versus perhaps a downturn another. And like I said, I think sometimes when there's a little bit of a downturn, that necessity will drive engagement with some new ideas and new opportunities.
We certainly see it. You think about booking a vacation where if there's a downturn in the economy, we actually see a shift from kind of fly-to destinations, think about international, to more drive-to destinations. Not that the overall market is necessarily going down, it's people are spending their money differently. I live in Austin, Texas, and within 3 hours you've got hill country with a bunch of wineries, you've got lakes, you've got coastline. There's a lot of places you can drive to, and for vacation rentals there's a lot of choice. We'll see that. I think other trend, I wouldn't say that it's a trend, but weather patterns also, we see that as well. You think of the hurricane impacted areas. We're certainly helping our partners and travelers deal with hurricanes when they happen, but we're starting to move towards like, hey, how can we help get ahead of these? Like, how can we help from a prediction perspective and put some safeguards in place? Because we certainly are in a position to relocate as we can, but I think that's just an example where we're starting to use machine learning to figure out and predict ahead of time.
So I'd like to think that travel and hotels are not outside this global universe. So factors like events, weather, news will probably, or most probably, impact it as much as it impacts other things. So definitely we look at these kinds of data to make predictions. However, hotels, as you know, people who are hotel savvy, there are certain differentiating factors. For hotels, same day last year is actually very important. What happened immediately before may not be as important as what happened exactly same day last year or same day of the week. But by and large, when you try to predict for the future, people have tried to model it by breaking it down into 3 things. Actually 4 things, but I'll focus on 3. One is trend, and the second is seasonality. Trend is like how things are going, and second is seasonality, how it moves. Now, seasonality you can define by month or by day of the week, however you want to define seasonality, and then you can also put some additional confounding events. So this is kind of the founding principle of any time series forecasting. This is how the math governs it, and it's not I am saying it. If you look at open source, and if you take forecasting tools like Prophet, which Facebook built and open sourced it, they are using the same guiding principles. So yeah, there are certain unique things in the travel and hospitality industry, but by and large, it's governed by the principles of math and predictions, which has been there for the last 50 years. It's not a new thing.
I like that take. Do any of you guys have a counter argument? Like, where do you feel like we really are at with the accuracy of AI and ML? Like, how often are you like, wow, no, the system really got it wrong on that? Like, these certain things that it just can't predict, like there's a hurricane, coming up the Gulf Coast next week, or, the Dow had a really bad day, or what, it might be. Where do you guys feel like we're at in terms of how much human oversight, human intuition is still needed in making some of these database decisions?
I mean, for us, we have a portfolio of technology that helps manage paid search campaigns, which is, it's an auction, it's competitive, and you're dealing certainly with macroeconomic behavior, you're dealing with the decisions of the airline themselves, but then also what the competitor does, right? And so one of the things we found there is that, yeah, you on some level, at least at this point, we can automate and use machine learning to improve the way that we're determining the bidding and trying to continue to optimize and improve cost of sale on acquisition. But then there's just general airline dynamics that if you wait long enough for the data to tell you what's going on, you may have missed the point already, right? Due to different competitive environments. So for us, at least in the very niche context in which we're operating, with data this way, it's always eyes on. It's not simply press the button and let it run. We're certainly not there yet, and the platforms that we're operating on don't support that yet.
Yeah, I think for us, it's called machine learning for a reason. You've got to have feedback loops in the sense. Sometimes that may be human intervention, and other you can automate in terms of outcomes that were expected or not expected. And as you're training your models, I mean, that's what machine learning is all about. So I still think we're in the early days, but every day, you got to just get better in terms of predictions.
In our world, we have to be pretty careful since there's a fair amount of risk with making loans, and so we're trying to use as much data and learn as much as possible every day. And yes, machine learning is making it well, I guess easier to do every day. But if you think about the risk we're balancing, on the one hand, with our travel partners, we want to drive as much business as possible. So that in turn means that we want to approve as many people for a loan so that they can make that purchase. But at the same time, we can't approve everyone because that's then the risk that we're willing to take. Because the other piece that we do is that at the time that loan is taken by the consumer, we then pay our travel partners in full that day, and we take on all the risk for repayment from that point forward. So balancing all of those risk factors means that we have to be pretty good at leveraging all the data that's available to us, but at the same time, we can get better every day for sure.
And so we've got just a few minutes left, so I want to cover one more topic, which is this whole idea of using data for personalization. So on the marketing side of things, this has been the holy grail for marketers for some time, and we're finally getting to the point where we can serve you an ad with your name on it, and it's in your favorite color, and it's showing you the last product that you looked at on Nordstrom.com or whatever it might be. In terms of pricing, are we there, or are we getting there where, maybe Seth with salary and lifestyle A and Mike with salary and lifestyle B are looking at the exact same flight or the exact same cruise or vacation rental, and we know that Mike is willing to pay a little bit more for that. So we're actually going to show him a higher price and hope that he books at that higher price. How close do you guys think that we are to there? Do you see any problems with us going there, like ethically? And I just want to get your take on this topic.
Molly, if it's okay, can I spend a few minutes on your previous question, just a minute?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, so sorry. Of course.
This is talking about accuracy. And other than cleansing the data, again, coming back to the cooking show, cleansing the data, the second biggest time component goes into proving accuracy. Because as soon as you tell people this is what's going to happen in the future, everybody becomes from Missouri. Show me. Okay, how do I show you? So the way I have done is, again, borrowed principles from the bigger financial Wall Street. So what the financial industry does is a practice called backtesting. So they take you back in time and play out a scenario and find out how it actually worked. So we have built a ton of software around that, meaning we can run a lab experiment which will take you back in time, let's say last year, and start forecasting. And since I know the actualized values, I can compare. And then I can measure accuracy by day of the week, by segment, by DBA, all these different dimensions, and report accuracy. But even with doing that, I get called out, Shobnath, Memorial Day is wrong. You got that flat wrong. So what we also built is what is called one-day accuracy trackers. These are things like the weatherman. This morning, sun has come out. What did the weatherman say 3 days back, 7 days back, 30 days back? So this is not a statistical average, but a pinpointed accuracy for that particular day. And depending on these accuracies, we try to improve our models. Is it perfect? Probably not yet. So that's where we want to bring in something called expert in the loop or human in the loop AI. In spite of everything what it does, when we generate our forecast and pricing, we want to put a thumbs up and thumbs down, which a human expert can see that this is good, not so good, and why not so good. Taking that, we haven't done it yet, so this is futuristic. We will invoke that into our model, into our reinforcement learning, and try to see how we can combine expert inputs into our models. And then the holy grail would be, given a future day, what actually happened, what did the human experts say, and what did the machine say, and run a leaderboard like that, and that should drive engagement. So it'll be the humans versus the bots. Sorry, I had to answer that question.
War of the worlds. It's happening.
So coming back to pricing, I don't want to hog the conversation. Let Seth go first, and then I'll come back.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
sure.
I think that ties in well to the personalization component.
Yeah.
And Seth, I know you guys are doing a lot of personalization at Everymundo, so.
Kind of. So we're looking at real-time behavior, but we're not getting deep into longer-term personalization based on accumulation of data about individuals. We actually think that there's so much work to be done before you get into trying to get it right for that exact person. So putting aside any ethical discussion around that, there's already, I think, more of a PR issue. It's airlines do loyalty very well for the most part, and the day that two loyal customers are sitting next to each other looking at two different prices, having done actually everything the same, that to me could be a PR nightmare more than an ethical issue, and start to damage loyalty potentially, which is very, very sensitive and very valuable and precious to the airlines. For us, in terms of taking revenue management as a discipline a step forward, there's so much that the airlines can already improve with everything that's already out there, right? So actually, it touched on something you said, Mike, about machine learning, about this feedback loop. So with what we do, we're broadcasting fares to the market. In some ways, the way we see our relationship with revenue management is trying to accelerate that loop, right? If RM is already trying to figure out the exact right price for every flight, on every day, the extent to which you find out whether you're right or not, and all the machine learning and AI that's already powering that, the extent to which you discover and improve upon that is simply a function of how the market reacts to it, right? And so there's so much work just to be done there before we're figuring out everybody's individual willingness to pay. And then personally, I question the extent to which that's what airlines are missing. I mean, that's, to me, figuring out that extra dollar here and extra dollar there, the damage it could do might be far more than that incremental revenue that might picked up and that incremental yield on the flight, because it's not optimized already, right? If that was the case, if everything was perfect and now it's about new ways to get a little extra juice out of it, maybe there's something there. But I think there's a lot of work to be done before that's really what's driving RM.
Yeah. I'll take the question in a little bit of a different direction. I agree with what Seth said. Showing one price to one person and one price to another person can be wrought with problems. But there's a lot ahead of us with personalization. It's something we're looking at and investing in. But I'll take the question a little bit of a different direction, which is actually on the partner side. So for Homeaway, our marketplace is different when it comes to revenue management. We have vacation rental owners and managers. They're the ones who are advertising or marketing our properties. What we found through the data is that unlike hotels or flights, not everyone is in our marketplace to fully maximize occupancy and squeeze every dollar out.
Right.
You got to think about, certainly there are property managers, that's what they do. But you also got to think we have owners who may have inherited the grandparents' lake house, and they're interested in renting it 1 or 2 weeks a year. They're not in the marketplace to rent every single night out. And so from a personalization standpoint, I'll actually take it a different direction, which is arming our partners with the data so that they can set a strategy that makes sense for them. And in some cases, it might be revenue maximizing, and others, it might be occupancy maximizing. And going back to the models that I was explaining earlier, we can tell them with some level of accuracy what the probability is that they'll get a booking on any given day of the year as well. So it's a little different direction, but for revenue management, personalizing kind of how our partners are pricing based on the data is a direction we're going. And then the last thing I'll say is Bob mentioned this on Get a Room, which is this notion of putting a price behind a fence, like fenced pricing, which could be another angle at personalization, which is providing something of value to the traveler to which they agree to, and in that agreement they get special pricing as well as a step towards personalization, and we definitely see that.
And in our world, talking to revenue managers, we simply say you can use payments as a promotional tool without actually having to discount. So let the consumer choose and raise their hand to say, I would like to pay over time through a monthly installment payment. They will get a custom-tailored, personalized price based upon their own credit history. And in some cases, depending on what the partner would like to do, if the guest or traveler would like to pay a portion of their trip through traditional means and finance the rest of the trip, it enables that kind of flexibility. So each individual can decide exactly what price they would like to pay, and if it turns out to be that they would like to pay over time with a monthly installment, then that's their personalized price.
Great. Well, thanks, guys. And sorry, Pam, did we have time for any questions or? Yes? No? Any questions from the audience?
This question is for Uplift. My question is, how many people do you think that you get to travel who didn't want to travel before? Did you hear everything?
Yeah, so how many people incrementally are traveling with us? It's interesting. For some of our partners who have been using us the longest, we represent between 15 and 20% of their total booking volume. And some of the things that we can look at is whether or not we thought they would have been able to afford the trip that they ended up purchasing had they had to pay in full on that day that they made the transaction. And so we can generally see about a third of our customers, and it varies by partner and by industry, but about a third of our customers we believe are truly incremental. And then there's the additional about, I would say, another third that are purchasing higher priced vacations or tickets than they would have otherwise had they not been able to spread payments out over time. So there's net incremental new business, and then there's upsell associated with it that's incremental as well.
Okay, great. Well, thank you guys so much. Let's have a round of applause for our panelists.